It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Kimberly Lovey. I am a wife, a mother of two. I'm a businesswoman, a brand builder, blogger, and podcaster. I'm here to connect with women just like me who want to optimize their life while looking and feeling our best. Together, we will remove limiting beliefs and dream to become our highest and best version of ourselves. We will explore both mental and physical aspects of self-improvement while forming a community, a sisterhood. Before we dive in, please subscribe to my podcast and give me 5 stars. Hi guys, welcome back. I am so happy to be here with you guys today. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about attracting and picking a mate. And this can apply to you if you are on a first marriage, considering your first marriage, looking for the guy, or it can apply to you if you're maybe on your second time around plus, and perhaps you did it wrong the first time and you could really go for some guidance. So I am here to give you my best tips. I am not a relationship psychologist or therapist. So, take it with a grain of salt, but I definitely think that I've learned some things and I'd love to share it with you guys. So with that, I'm going to dive right in. So I think attracting and picking a mate, there's a couple things that come to mind as far as what's worked for me in the past and what has not served me well in the past. So the first thing I would say is I would have your top 5, like deal breaker must-haves, not your top 10, but your top 5. And I distinctly remember that my sister was the one that said to me, your top 10, that list is too long. It needs to be your top 5. And so, for example, mine were things around, education, someone that's funny, and someone that had a really good family, because family is really important to me. Intelligence was another one. And then I wanted them to have an advanced degree because that's what I was going for. And so your top 5 could be completely different, but, I used to have additional items on there that were more like nice to haves, but when I really think about it, they really weren't must haves. And so, and another one whatever. I'm just going to skip that. So there was a couple that I had must haves, for my own personal reasons. But anyway, so basically, I think knowing what your must-haves are is one huge one. And I guess on this point, I will also say that something that I kind of came to realize is that, you attract what you are. And so if you want a guy that has an education or has a really big career or loves to travel, like you should probably embody all of those things. And I know that seems a little bit obvious, but it's really important. Like you should really turn the tables back on yourself to say, do I have these traits that I am looking for? Because I really do think that like attracts like. And so, if you want a guy that makes a lot of money, girl, you should be making a lot of money too, because let me tell you, they are attracted to the same thing that they are. So And so I really can't stress that enough, that you really need to be what it is that you're looking for. And it kind of lends itself to a bigger point that I want to make here, which is around the role that someone else should play in your life versus the role you should be playing in your life. So I firmly believe that a woman should be able to fulfill herself. You should be able to stand on your own 2 feet in every single aspect. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a fully formed human, as I say, but you should be able to be happy, completely happy on your own. That doesn't mean that you've hit every single goal yet. It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that you're at your final destination, because that's not realistic. But the point is that when I think about a healthy relationship, I think, and where I was finally, was I was at the point where I was so content with the progress I had made to date. That was a journey in itself, let me tell you. But I finally got to the place where I felt content with myself. I had been going for my MBA and, at a top business school, and I started to finally feel really happy with myself for the first time, maybe ever. And I was in my mid-20s at that time. And, it was a journey to get there as a teenager, and early 20s. For me, was really, really difficult. And so getting to that place was a milestone to say, you know what? I am not looking for a mate that is going to fulfill me. I am very happy on my own. So from now on, I just want someone that's going to add to my life. They're going to make me smile more. I definitely do not want someone that is going to upset me, because I had already been through all those relationships and it was exhausting. And I got to tell you, I was so tired. I was so tired of the draining relationships and failed expectations. And so, having worked on myself for so long and really putting myself first and my own personal development first was, it served me well, and it set me up really nicely for attracting a mate. And so Brian and I were set up on a blind date. And I know a few of you have asked me, how did you and your spouse meet? And so that's how we met. It was a complete blind date. I had very low expectations. And I was just kind of at that point where I was like, listen, I've got a lot of balls in the air. If I find the right guy, I'm definitely looking for a husband, but I'm not going to put everything to the side for this guy. I have my own life, and he's going to have to basically earn his spot on my priority list. And I know that sounds a little cold, but it was true. And it just came from a place of just being so broken and so heartbroken, for so many years by men that didn't value my time, and dysfunctional relationships. And I just was at the point where I was like, I can't give anymore. Someone has to earn their spot in my life. I just can't give it away anymore. And so I think that sense, and I know Lauren Everett says this on The Skinny Confidential, she kind of says, she gives off that vibe of I can take it or leave it. And I gotta say, I think that is so true, because when you are coming from a place of desperate energy, oh my God, anyone can feel it, whether it's a friend or a business relationship, whatever it is, people sense that stuff. So what I'm saying is, make sure, or what I think is the best way to get the best guy is by being super happy with yourself and being a whole woman on your own. And again, it doesn't mean that you've already hit all of your goals. I'm 36, I'm married with 2 kids. I'm still not even close to where I want to be as far as hitting my peak performance. And I've made a lot of progress, but I'm super ambitious. So I don't want you to think that, oh my God, I have to have everything done in my life. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I need you to feel content on your own, physically, emotionally, and hopefully on your way financially, so that you're self-sustaining and you're not giving off that super, super desperate energy, because I'm telling you, guys will walk all over that. And if you give your power to them, they'll take it. And so, another thing is that I do believe that people treat you the way that you allow. And so if you allow a guy to not respect you, or any person for that matter, depending on the situation, they just might be taking you for granted. So if you allow that to continue, then that behavior will continue and that dynamic in your relationship will continue. So from the beginning, I always say, and please, if there's kids in the car or our parents, turn this part off. I think this is very traditional, but I got to say it. I think a really big key is not giving away yourself physically up front because men don't respect it. Okay. And the reason why that is because they're hunters and we're gatherers. And so you're supposed to be the prize. We're the prize. Okay. And so they want what we can give them. And I'm speaking very much physically, right? Without getting too graphic. And so you have to maintain that respect and do not give it away because let me tell you, it doesn't work. They will not respect you. If you don't respect yourself, they won't respect you. And like my thing was just like, you know what? The way women are wired is that when you have a physical relationship with somebody, we tend to get bonded to them. And there's all kinds of sources around this if you want to start, researching more about the chemical reaction that happens and all of that. But I had kind of come to the place where I realized that. And so I was just tired. I was like, I can't go through this again and like give myself away physically and then get nothing back emotionally and then be devastated again. I couldn't do it anymore. And so I just said, you know what? I'm not doing that. I am not giving away myself physically until a man has proven to me that they are worthy of my heartache or my heart in general. And, it didn't come from like a place of pressure from anyone or, any outside kind of forces or thoughts that are out there. It just really came from my place of just being tired of being broken, tired of being brokenhearted. And so with my husband, that's how I played it. And let me tell you, it sets the tone as far as respect. So from the beginning, I set that tone of like, I respect myself. And if you don't, then there's the door. Like I can kind of take it or leave it. Don't get me wrong. Like I completely enjoyed his company, and that's why I continued to see him. And he did really add a lot of love and laughter and happiness, but he had to earn his place. And so I would just say, don't give away your time, don't give away your body, and just really know your worth. And if you're not at that place where you're able to do that yet, and maybe you are just having fun, that's okay too. But don't be confused about where you are. Like, identify where you are. Where am I? Am I just going out to have fun and date and I'm not really looking for anything too serious? Maybe you just got done with a big relationship or a breakup. Like that's fine. You're allowed to be free and you should be free and you should do whatever, makes you feel happy. But if you're, really at the point where you're trying to, as I affectionately call it, husband hunting, then you got to play it right if you want to attract the right guy. And that starts with looking inward and, with self. And so once you actually find what you think could be a good guy, there's a few what I'll call leading indicators that you should pay attention to. And again, this is just my take. I know several people have other takes and that's okay too. I'm just sharing one opinion. So it's okay if you don't agree. I'm just going to share my thoughts. So how do you know when he's the marrying type? I will say he puts you before himself. And I mean that in a very real way. I don't mean this in a fluffy kind of way. I mean it in a real way. So I'm going to give you an example of my own experience when I knew Brian was good. So I was in business school. I was getting my MBA, which is a master's in business administration. For those of you who don't know, it's a master's degree, obviously, in business. And so, I was at USC, Fight On Trojans out there. And, it's a very rigorous program. At least it was for me. I know some other people thought it was like not as hard, but whatever. They must be smarter than me. That's all I can say. So anyway, I was very much heads down and he had invited me. We were kind of like a month or two into dating and he had invited me to a very fancy steakhouse, Cut, for those of you, Cut in Beverly Hills, which is, I think it's like Michelin star. And he had invited me to this amazing steakhouse to meet his entire family on his birthday. And I had an accounting exam in 2 days and I felt really overwhelmed and was just not ready, and definitely could not even take on the stress of like making sure I showed up properly to meet his family, because obviously I started to feel like this could be a real guy. And so I politely declined. And, he said to me, he goes, "You know what, babe? Like, that's okay, because I want you to stay home and study because it makes me feel good when you do good." And I kind of was like, okay, sounds like a good line. But he meant it. And it showed because he didn't ever hold it against me in the coming days. And it turns out that I actually had a family friend at that dinner who came to me later, like a couple weeks later, and said, he was really disappointed you weren't there. And I was kind of stunned, to be honest. And he never once made me feel guilty about it. Never once. And let me tell you, that right there is someone that is a good guy, like right there. The second one is around his family. Okay, now look, not everyone has the cookie cutter family, and all of us have batshit families because we're people, and that's just how it is, right? Like, even if you have the cookie cutter family from the outside, we all know that you have some skeletons going on in your closet in your family, right? So I want to say that because nobody's perfect, and I don't want to make it seem like it has to be perfection. But something that I do think is important, and this is, again, if you're husband hunting, it's different if you're just dating. So one thing I severely underestimated was, like, I always kind of knew, okay, his family, like, that matters because you're going to be married and all of that. But I didn't really get it until now I've lived it. And like, here I am on the other side. And here's the deal. So it's not a must have that he gets along with his family and that you love his family. Like, certainly I can give many, many examples where it's just not going to happen. Okay. And that's okay. But I will say, I was so lucky because Brian's family, excuse me, so his parents are divorced. And I didn't know what to expect with that because my parents are still married and they have the most beautiful relationship, right? And so it was just wonderful for me to, it wasn't like contentious, and it was just very easy for me to kind of enjoy everyone's company, and it wasn't contentious, and it was just nice. And so that was kind of nice, right? That's upon first glance. And then what happened was, after you get married and you have kids, what happens is, even for you superstar moms or type A type people, like I'm very type A, I'm very much a Wonder Woman, a superwoman, I take on a lot, but motherhood changes things, okay? And I don't care if you are literally like Queen Elizabeth. When you have children, you need help. And so one huge, huge benefit that I've been able to experience is that I really get along with both of his parents. And that comes into play particularly when his mom will come over and help with our kids. And I love having her at our house. She's very respectful. Like, she's the dream mother-in-law, to be perfectly honest. And I know not every mother-in-law is like this, but I'm just giving you an example of like what good looks like from my experience, because I know that most people don't have this. So I just want to at least put it out there that this is a thing. So my mother-in-law, she is just a dream. She is not judgmental, or if she is, it's quiet. She's basically like my second mom. And, it's such a help and such a joy to get to experience having that support system aside from my parents. And she loves kids, and she's very hands-on, and she's just amazing. And, his dad, forget it. Like, we are thick as thieves. Like, we are tight, and it's just beautiful. And I'm so, so grateful. And again, it's not that we don't have our own family drama, because that's just not true. But what I'm saying is, be aware of what is out there and what you're really signing up for. And if you hate the family and it is a complete disaster for one reason or another, they don't accept you, they are going to make things hard for you, like, run. And also, you get into like things like, oh, well, is my husband going to defend me, and all of this other stuff. It becomes, I'm telling you, really, really a lot more challenges than you would hope for. Now, again, if this is your situation already, and sometimes it is what it is, and you can be madly in love with your husband and he doesn't have a perfect family, and that's okay too. I'm just telling you, I've been super fortunate with this set of additional parents, and it's been lucky, and thankfully I've had them. It has been a huge relief for me, a huge added support that I just never really realized I was getting when I signed up. And then, same with his sister. So siblings, same thing. Are they a source of angst, or are they a source of support? And so just take a really good look at his family, and if your family's kind of messed up, then just tell him up front what it is. When the time's right, like obviously, like you'll figure out when that makes sense. But I don't know that I fully appreciated the importance of the role of the family I was marrying into until I've already been many years into it now. So I just kind of wanted to point that out and maybe share that, and just something for you to pay like extra attention to, maybe in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise done. The other big thing, and we're getting into some heavier stuff because I'm talking about husband hunting, and I'm talking about real important like life setup type choices. So I really do want to talk about them, like, and give them their full appreciation. Another really, really important thing I think is around, I'm going to call it like, which marriage model do you both want? And I do think you should both talk about that. And you should talk about it kind of early, like, almost up front when you're dating and you're dating seriously, you should be screening guys like immediately, and make sure that when you say the word, I'm looking for a husband, they don't freak out and leave. Because if that's the case, it's the wrong guy. Like when I said that to Brian on my first date, he just like kept looking at me. He didn't flinch, like no reaction. And believe me, I wasn't trying to dive into marriage with him on the first date at all. I was just making it clear that this is where I'm at, and it was honest. And he was truthfully looking for the same thing. So it didn't scare him. So it was all good. So going back to this idea of the marriage model, I completely make up these ridiculous terms, by the way. So like, don't go off Googling it because it's not like an actual framework. I mean, I can make it into one if you guys like it, but whatever. So it's interesting. So I think when I think about like what your marriage model looks like first and foremost, do you want kids or do you not want kids? And you guys definitely need to have that chat even before you're engaged. Like, you need to know. That's huge. And so let's just say you do want kids. Okay. So if you do want kids, when you are engaged or whenever it feels appropriate to you, you should definitely be having the discussion around, well, what is the marriage model that we are both kind of expecting from this? Because I think knowing that up front will save you a lot of grief on the back end. And so, like, I kind of upfront said, I am definitely going back to work. Like, I will have the kid, but who's raising it? And so my mother-in-law, of course, like jumped up and down, me. And I was like, great, done, next. So that was pretty easy. But I have a guy friend who is extremely successsul, and he told me like 10 years ago that he was looking for a wife, and basically, or maybe it was 15 years ago now. So yeah, he basically said up front, like, I want the traditional marriage. Like, I want my wife to stay home, take care of the kids, take care of me, take care of the home, and I make all the money. Like, I have all these businesses and I don't need my wife to work. And I was really kind of stunned to hear that because, it's not that common that you hear that, but this guy is like wildly successful. So coming from him, I guess it wasn't all that surprising, but I loved that he knew what he wanted. Like, I loved that because it helped him know when he found the right one. And by the way, it's 15 years later, and he found that person. And she wanted the exact same thing. She wanted to stay home with the children. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of the home and take care of him. And like, their marriage is just absolutely beautiful. Like, it is such a great marriage. And, my grandparents had that model too. It's the traditional model. And I got to say, that divide and conquer strategy, like, I gotta say it works. Like, if you're with the right, with the man that respects your role in the home, and, vice versa, the woman doesn't resent the guy for not being maybe as hands-on, then it's a great model. It really does work, especially if the finances support it. So, But for me, I knew that I wasn't that girl and that I like to make money. And so yeah, let's talk about this more actually for a second. So, what was I looking for? So, I knew I wanted to work. I like to make money. I love business. I had been putting myself through business school and yeah, it's just who I am. And so, what I was looking for, because clearly I wasn't looking for a guy to take care of me financially. And we talked about the major traits, but like as far as finances go, what I think is like a very like maybe healthy expectation that I had kind of put in my own mind was like, okay, I'm not looking for a guy that is going to take care of me because I know I want to work and I know that makes me feel good and I know that I love making money. But I definitely would like a guy that doesn't stay home because I think I would, and I'm being totally honest and I'm not judging others because listen, everyone has their own jam. But for me, my honest discussion is like, I didn't want a guy that was going to stay home that I was supporting financially because I would resent him. I just know me. That's just how I am. I'm very much a go getter. And if I came home and there was a guy that stayed home, like it's not what I was looking for. It didn't make me warm and fuzzy and like set my heart on fire when I thought about that. So then I thought, well, so what is it exactly that I'm looking for here? Well, turns out what I was really looking for was I wanted to meet someone that was my equal in almost every metric, and that includes finances. So I wanted someone that was making as much or more money than me. And if it wasn't dead equal, that's fine. But I think on most metrics, I really was just looking for my equal. And I think it's fair to ask for that as a woman or a man. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. Again, but to each his own. I'm just giving you food for thought and walking you through my thought process as I was husband hunting. And it did serve me well. And this is coming from a girl that had a lot of broken, failed relationships. Maybe not a lot, maybe a handful. But, I was in love with all of those guys and I was very heartbroken from all of those relationships. And I just needed to figure out a way to not be heartbroken and to really find my match, and like a really healthy relationship. And I definitely have found that. And it was not easy for me to do that. And, then it comes to kind of like smaller things. Oh, let's talk about the living together thing for a second versus, are you going to be engaged first or are you going to live together first before you get married? Okay. Now, funny enough, it seems like most women and men feel like, oh, you have to live together beforehand. Well, I was vehemently on the other side. I was like, no way, no how. I will not be like stuck in like, some multi-year relationship without a ring on my finger, because I was starting to approach, well, I was 28, I think, when Brian and I started to get to that point. And so I was like, well, my eggs are not going to hatch themselves is what I told him. And so like, I knew that like time does matter as a woman because biologically your clock and all of that stuff, as much as I don't like it, there's just facts about it. Right. And so I was very guarded entering this relationship, as you guys are probably sensing, again, because of all the heartbreak. And so I was like really uncomfortable with the idea of living with someone because I was worried that I'd be dragged through the mud for like years and then at the end, like be begging for, a ring. And I did not want to do that. And so he felt very strongly like, I want to live with a person and really get to know you before taking the next step. And so basically at the time I was traveling like all over for work. And so really the main thing that pushed me to move in with Brian before being engaged was, I had just graduated business school and then I was traveling all over the world or all over the country every single week. And so the idea of like me leaving on a Sunday or early Monday morning to the airport, having my bags packed, go work for 5 days, come back to my apartment, unpack my stuff from the week, repack to go to his house, to his condo for the weekend, and then go to his house all weekend only to come back, unpack, repack. I'm like, this is ridiculous. My head's spinning. I can't do it. And like, I'd have no time to get my suits dry cleaned. Like just, I would be so crazy. And so logistically, it really didn't make sense for us. I said, you know what? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I will move in with you, but under one condition. He's like, what's that? And I said, I will move in with you, but we have 1 year to decide if we are it for each other or not. Okay, either way, 1 year. Because by a year, okay, keep in mind, we've already been dating now for 2 years. So by a year, an additional year, like year 3 and living together, you should know. And so he was like, okay, I'm good with that. That makes sense. And so that's basically what it was. And then as that year came around, I reminded him, and clearly, like, it was going in the direction of marriage. And so I did remind him, I did make sure that he was aware. And sure enough, he proposed and we got married. Now, I will also say another kind of thing about that is that when you first move in with someone, especially if you are really self-sufficient, like I was very self-sufficient before I moved in with him, very, very happy living kind of on my own. I do think that there was an adjustment period for us, like as far as choosing what furniture that we bring together and which ones we get rid of. Like there's a lot of like logistics when you first move in with someone that you have to work through and like kind of finding your stride. So I guess the other thing that I'll say is that if you do move in with someone and you have a rough kind of first couple months, like where you're just, maybe you're arguing about, little things, that's okay. As long as you figure out a respectful way to kind of compromise and like you guys need to find your, rhythm. So if it's not perfect immediately, don't like go off and have a big fit, like work through it, because marriage is a long game. Remember, like if you're aiming for the ring and you're aiming for the marriage and the husband, like it's long game. So, yeah, if at first it's a little tricky, I think that that's normal. And I would say don't give up so easily. If you think you found a really good guy, like try and work through it. Like someone said to me once, okay, well, let's see, my husband's really messy and I'm really neat, but I look down at the pile of clothes on the floor and I think, well, is that more important than my marriage? Like, is that really the, So that's what I'm saying. Like you're going to have to compromise when you live with somebody. And, that is part of the experience too, is that you're learning about them. Like, can you stand them or not? So, yeah. So I guess going back just to kind of recap, because I think we've touched on probably the biggest highlights. I think I could probably go on and on for hours, but you guys would be bored to tears. I would say when you're looking for your husband, make sure that you really are in a good place for yourself and you're looking for someone to add more happy, not someone to fulfill you. It's not fair to that person. You should never put that on someone else to make you happy. It's just totally unfair to do that. Yeah. So I would say work on yourself first. Get to the place where you really are feeling like you've hit your stride. You're happy with yourself. You're working on yourself still, but like you're welcoming, someone that will add more happy. And if that person is adding negativity for any reason, then get rid of them and move on. Cut your losses early, because you need to find someone that makes you more happy, not someone that takes away. Like it just is that simple in my mind. Like, do they add more happy or do they take away from your life? So hopefully you come into the relationship, you're in a great place, you're happy, you're positive, and you're just looking for more of that. That's the first one. Big takeaway. The second one is respect yourself enough to have boundaries, have expectations, and respect yourself, because that sets the tone moving forward. Like they will they sense that. So if you set the bar really high and say, I will only be treated like a queen and nothing less, like they will adhere to that if that's the level that you expect. So really, really respect your own self. And again, be clear, make sure that before you even consider any of this, make sure that you're really in the place where you're actually looking for the long-term relationship, and be honest. If you're not, that's okay too. Like be honest about where you're at, like first and foremost. Yeah. And then, know what your top 5 are, your must-haves, like deal breakers. You must have these 5 things. Look for the guy that puts you before himself. So important. To this day, my husband and I have been together for almost 10 years. And to this day, he always puts my happiness first. We by no means have like the perfect marriage or anything. Like we definitely have our own ups and downs and, things, challenges and whatever. But at the end of the day, like our values are the same, and he puts me first and our kids first. He's not selfish. It's not all about him. We try and put each other first. And then, just taking a look at his family and seeing if that's something that you're willing to sign up for many, many years to come. And, again, if it's not perfect, that's okay too. But is it something that you can tolerate for like the long game, and be completely honest? And like, if it's not, then how do you guys plan to like navigate that situation together as one united front? Because you just don't want that adversarial feeling within your own family, to the extent you can, at least minimize it. Again, nothing's perfect. And then knowing your favorite marriage model, like what is it that you guys both think you're signing up for in marriage. And then taking the leap as far as living together and what that looks like and how you navigate all of that. So I would absolutely love to hear more from you guys. These are my kind of tips and tricks, and I would love to hear more about it from you guys. What's worked for you? What are some fails? It's definitely interesting to hear different people's perspective on this, but that's mine, and I hope it helped you guys. And I would love to just hear what you liked in this episode. So message me, text me, call me. I go to sleep at like 9 p.m., so don't text or call too late because I won't answer. But yeah, find me on Instagram, Kimberly Lovey. I love you guys, and subscribe and refer all your friends. Give me 5 stars and give me feedback. I had so much fun with you guys. As always, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Mwah!
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.